pasted this around, the big piece.
You're on tape.
Okay. We're going to learn Basi Legani of Tavshin Membeis, which is the Maamar and the us of the Basi Legani, which is Eis Yud Beis. Look, we know the Friedrich Rebbe, before he passed away, gave out, drop something. The Friedrich Rebbe, before he passed away, he gave out a Maamar, 4 Maamarim of Basi Legani, 5 chapters in each, altogether was 20 chapters. And as we mentioned, just to give again an introduction to the Basi Legani, is the way it works. A lot of the Rabbeim said Maamarim, a lot of the Rabbeim said Maamarim and wrote Maamarim. In the end of his life, the Friedrich Rebbe couldn't speak. It was hard for him to speak because of the stroke. So the Friedrich Rebbe used to write Maamarim. So before a unique, what's called Yom de Praga, before Chabad Day, the Friedrich Rebbe would write a Maamar, and then he would give it out, and the Chassidim would learn it on the day. So Yud Shvat was the yard site of the Friedrich Rebbe's grandmother, the Rebbetzin Rivka, who was the wife of the Rebbe Marash. Yud Gimel Shvat was the yard site of his mother, Rebbetzin Shter Sara. So he gave out a Maamar beforehand, before he passed away, of 4 Maamarim. Now, a lot of times the Rabbeim, when they wrote a Maamar, and then at the end they put in a beginning and an end. Every Maamar has a beginning and an end, and then the middle goes off. So the Friedrich Rebbe did this. So 2 of the Maamarim, Basi Legani, and the second one, Yosef's Beganim, those had a beginning and an end to it, because it was for Yud Shvat and Yud Gimel Shvat. Then he already wrote a Maamar for Purim, and he wrote a Maamar already for Beis Nissen, for his father's yard site, the Rebbe Rashab's yard site. So he wrote 4 Maamarim. 2 had beginning and ends. Each one was 5 chapters. So after he passed away, the Rebbe said, and the first Maamar the Rebbe said, Basi Legani, Tavshin Yud Aleph, the first Maamar that he said as Rebbe. So the Rebbe explained the first 1950, the first us of Basi Legani. Second year, he elaborated on the second chapter. Tavshin Lamed, when they wrote Mashiach Sefer Torah, the Rebbe finished all 20 Eisios. So there was a Maamar basically expounding on each one of the 20 Eisios. In Tavshin Lamed Aleph, the Rebbe started again. Eis Aleph, then Eis Beis, and Eis Gimel, which was finished in Tavshin Membe. Well, it didn't, but the Rebbe stopped saying Maamarim, the Mems. So the Pearl, so Tavshin Yud, and so if you make that cheshbon, it's like this: Tavshin Yud, 20 years later, Tavshin Lamed, Tavshin Nun, okay, and then Tavshin Ayin would finish again the cycle, and then Tavshin Ayin Aleph, 5771, would begin the next Temshech. So this year, which is 5782, would be the 12th chapter of that Basi Legani in the 5th sequence. So what the Chassidim do today is they learn the Maamarim that the Rebbe wrote for those years. Tavshin Yud Beis and Tavshin Mem Beis. Okay? So this year's Maamar, they're giving out the Maamar that the Rebbe said on Tavshin Mem Beis, which is corresponding with the letter for this year of Basi Legani. Now that letter, that paragraph of the Friedrich Rebbe's Maamar is very, very up there. Way, So the Tavshin Yud Beis Maamar is really difficult. This one is a little bit easier. So we're going to learn this one to start, then we'll see. So this is a Maamar the Rebbe said at the Fabrengen Yud Shvat Tavshin Mem Beis, which was 5742. Okay?
Is this what the Rebbe said, or the...
No, these are the Maamar the Rebbe said, based on the previous Rebbe's Maamar, but he elaborates. On one chapter, he makes 10. You know what I mean? He elaborates.
Where did the Rebbe write?
No. The Rebbe generally did not write Maamarim. Our Rebbe said Maamarim, and many Maamarim we had the merit that the Rebbe edited. Most Maamarim the Rebbe did not edit, but they were pretty reliable. What's called Hanocha of what they wrote down, the Biel Khan, yeah, those guys that it's extremely reliable, but it's not edited. Okay, so it says Basi Legani Achis. All the Yud Shvat Maimorim begin with Basi Legani. Another unique thing of the Yud Shvat Maimorim. Twice a year, we mentioned this in the past. Twice a year, the Rebbe in the Maimorim would mention all the Rabbeim, starting from the Baal Shem Tov through the previous Rebbe, and later years, even his father. He would mention his father in the Maimon. When the Rebbe used to give out letters to Klal Yisrael twice a year, before Tishrei and before Pesach, yeah? In those letters, in the footnotes, would also be Mara Mekaymis from each one of the Rabbeim, starting the Baal Shem Tov through his father in the last years. An issue is from the Baal. If you look in the footnotes of the letters, because the Rebbe would write a letter with footnotes, the letter that the Rebbe wrote with footnotes would have something from each one of the Rabbeim, starting from the Baal Shem Tov. Now, the original Basi Legani that the Rebbe said Tafshin Yud Aleph did not mention the Magid and the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid. Did not mention the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid. And the Maimon, the Rebbe said 3 days later, Yud Gimel, Shvat, Tafshin Yud, Aleph, when the Rebbe said Maimorim, he mentioned the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid, and from then every Yud Shvat and Rosh Hashanah Maimon. Those 2 times a year, when the Rebbe said a Maimon, Yud Shvat and Rosh Hashanah, it had all the Rebbeim, starting from the Baal Shem Tov through the previous Rebbe, and in the later years, even his father. Okay, so he said...
What was the purpose of editing them?
To make sure it was 100% correct. Why does any author edit his manuscripts?
No, but he was editing somebody else's writing.
Some were audio recorded, but if the Rebbe didn't check it over and add things and take off things, it's called built-in buga. Like this mimer was transcribed from a tape.
Right, exactly.
But still, if the Rebbe didn't edit, it was called not built-in muga. It wasn't edited. That's it, bottom line. Okay, Basi Legani Achesi Kala, there's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. I've come to my garden, my sister the bride. This pasuk refers to Matan Torah. Hashem said by Matan Torah that I have come back to my garden, my sister, my bride. That in the continuation, in the Hemshech of Maimorim. Shahaytzi la'od, Aminas lamdi b'yem Shabbos Kodesh Yud Shvat, b'pam Rishenu Tavshin Yud, the Maim he gave out to learn on the day of his passing, Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud, which was Shabbos that year, V'gam b'shonim aboim lachas, and the years after that, he quotes Mashiach b'Medrash Rabbah. When he quotes in the Medrash Rabbah, Legani, what does it mean? The Medrash says, what is Gani? My garden, it means the Gnuni, my dwelling place. So the Medrash interprets, I've come to my garden, means actually I've come to my dwelling place. Which means, by definition, Hashem said, I have come to my dwelling place. That means he already was here, because if he wasn't there yet, it's not his dwelling place. That means I have come back to my dwelling place, it means he was here. The Malkum Shoya Ikri B'tchila, the place where he was originally, the Ikar Shechina B'tachteinim Haisa, because the Ikar Shechina, the primary level of Shechina, was down here. And as Rebbe elaborates in the first Basi Legani, that Ikar Shechina means, Shechina is Malchus, but there's a lot of different levels of Malchus. The Rebbe says Ikar Shechina refers to the Malchus of Lifnei HaTzimtzum, was here and the world when Hashem created the world. Through bad actions, meaning the 7 Avedas, the Shechina left and went upwards. For instance, in the first Maamar he quotes more of this. When Adam and Chava sinned, the Shechina left earth. When Cain killed Hevel, it went from first to second. Then, it went all the way up. All the way, it left the world. Which means the revelation of godliness in the world kept getting less and less and less.
But never before Simpson. It's still after Simpson.
Yes. And then, at Shabbat, Shiva Tzadikim, until 7 Tzadikim came, and they brought the Shechina back Like you quote from the Medrash in the Maamar. Avram brought it from 7 to 6, Yitzchak 6 to 5, Yaakov until Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu was 7th generation from Avram Avinu. There was Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Levi, Kahos, Amram, Moshe. So there are 7 generations from Avram Avinu until Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Medrash says until Moshe. Shehu Ashvi, who was the 7th. And the Medrash in a different place says, Chol Ashvi Chavivin. All 7 are precious. Haridas Legani. He brought back the Shechina to the Gan. And to all the way down here to the slowest world. That there's nothing lower. Meaning, Moshe Rabbeinu by Matan Torah, and that's what the Medrash says. By Matan Torah, Basi Legani, Hashem said, I've come back to where I was initially. I was thrown out, 7 levels up. 7 tzaddikim brought it down. Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest. He was the one that was able to bring the Shekhinah from heaven back to earth. And that happened by Matan Torah. In fact, and the Rabbi explains that just like it's self-understood that from earth to heaven is a bigger jump than heaven to heaven. Right? Earth to heaven, earth and heaven. So, just like it took the biggest sin, Eitzadas, to original sin, to get the Shekhinah from earth to heaven, bringing it down took the greatest to bring it down from heaven 1 to earth. Who was Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the 7th. All 7th are precious. And therefore they brought the Shekhinah back.
That means that generation, Moshe Rabbeinu had to be at that time. If it wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu, it would have been somebody else, correct?
Yeah, every person is in the generation they need to be in. I mean, by the way, just for the record, as they would say in Yeshiva, me and you, or correct English, you and I, are here in this generation because that's where we need to be. Yeah. And the Rebbe of each generation is the Rebbe, like the Rebbe says in Mata Tetzava, is the neshama that comes down because that generation needs that particular Rebbe to be at that time. So our generation needed the Rebbe, not the Alter Rebbe, not the Mittel Rebbe, not the Samach Tzedek, not the others. Our generation needs the Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe's generation needed the Alter Rebbe. Moshe Rabbeinu's generation needed him, and Mordechai's generation needed Mordechai. It's self-understood. Okay. And then, what keeps the Shekhinah down? Okay, Moshe Rabbeinu brought it down, but we learned, you need to feed it, that it should stay down here. That's the Aved of Tzaddikim. That he says, that Tzaddik can bring Sheikhin Ad, meaning the essence of Hashem down here, to Koyel Amcho Kulam Tzaddikim. V'amir Kulam Tzaddikim, and the Rebbe says, the Rebbe writes in the Maamar, he says, what keeps the Shekhinah down here? Tzaddikim. V'amir Kulam Tzaddikim, everybody, all Jews are Tzaddikim, except a few, but everybody's Tzaddikim. They keep the Shekhinah down here. And that's why in the original Maamar, the Rebbe explains that Chassidus brought the Shekhinah in a way of Chabad, the teaching of Chassidus in Chabad, and the Alter Rebbe was the 1st generation, and we're the 7th generation. So basically, the Rebbe in the original Maamar says that our generation, just like Moshe Rabbeinu's generation, had the task of bringing the Shekhinah back down here by Matan Torah. The task of our generation as the 7th generation is to bring Mashiach down here. That's what the Rebbe basically writes in the first Maamar. And the Rebbe writes, this that we are the 7th generation is not our free will, it's not even what we want maybe, but this is it. So whether we like it or not, by hook or by crook, Hashem made us the 7th generation, because our job is, like Moshe Rabbeinu, to bring the Shekhinah back down to earth.
Rabbi.
What?
Based on the Tanya, how can we say that Kulam Tzaddikim? Everybody's a Tzaddik.
V'amichum tzaddikim is a pasuk.
So how do you explain that through the lens of Tanya?
Tzaddikim anachnu.
Potential.
1 second.
Right, tzaddikim anachnu, we say.
If you learn the first parak of Tanya, in the Ha'ar on the 2nd page, Now the Rebbe says, "V'hod amrin ba'alma without the interpreting." But he says in the order that's a question of Eliyot. Bottom line is, he says that the Gemara says tzaddikim is reiv zchuyus, majority of good deeds. Like the world says, tzaddik is 75-25 good, Rosh is 75-25 bad, Beinani is 50-50. That's a true name. It's the definition of a tzaddik, not the ultimate definition of a tzaddik. The ultimate definition of a tzaddik is kills the Yetzer Hara or transforms the Yetzer Hara. But there is a concept of a tzaddik. Va'amech kulam tzaddikim. It doesn't mean a tzaddik of Tanya. It means the whole nation potentially is a level of a tzaddik to do more mitzvahs than avedas. And therefore, this aveda of keeping the Shekhinah down, bringing it down, keeping it down, is up to every single Jew. She'al kol echad ve'echad nema. About every single Jew it says, Teira tziva lanu Meisha. Every Jew has the entire Torah as an inheritance. And again, like we learned many times, inheritance, you don't have to understand anything. You don't have to realize anything. You are a child, you inherit. A child that comes out of the mother's womb. And the father died, who was a multi-billionaire, trillionaire. That kid, as if he's an only child, inherits all the money. He doesn't know what a father is, he doesn't know what a mother is, he doesn't know what money is. Bottom line is, he inherits it. Every single Jew has the entire Torah. It says, he quotes in the original Maamar, Tzaddikim Yishu Aretz, simply means like this. Tzaddikim inherit the land. V'yishkenu lo'ad aleha simply means they live forever on the land. Lo'ad means permanently. But in the Maamar he defines Tzaddikim Yishu Aretz, Gan Eden. Aretz is Gan Eden. Why? Because v'yishkenu, they bring down lo'ad, sheikhin ad, morim v'kod, Hashem, Aleha into the world. So because the Aveda Torah mitzvahs brings the Shekhinah into the world, so therefore the Jews go to Gan Eden. And he says, the people of every generation constantly bring the Shekhinah down. In a way of eternity. And the Friedrich Rebbe adds in the Maamar, that is done through his kafya and his sapcha, by breaking evil and transforming evil. He ba'efin distalik yikar du kutche brecha b'chol ha'olmen kebedog mesyem hilula shenikre histalkus. At the day of Elul, I'm going to say it and explain it. Because Gilui v'ashra he ba'efin she'ena mitzumtum bulgum bekend. Okay. He quotes the Maamar. The Zohar is questionable where in the Zohar it is, but he says, "Kadiskafya sitarachra." This is what the Zohar says. It's quoted from the Zohar. Kadiskafya sitarachra, when you break evil, is stalek yikared the kutchebrichel b'chol almin. Simply means you bring down stalek yikared the kutchebrichel, the preciousness of God, meaning a great revelation of God. In all worlds. Okay? Simply the Zohar says, you break evil, you transform evil. The Zohar doesn't say transform. You break evil, you bring down the highest levels of godliness down here in the world. Now normally, istalik means leaving. Istalik is stalkus. In Aramaic, istalik means to leave. Therefore, when a tzaddik passes away, it's called istalkus, because the neshama leaves the body. A person passes away, it's called istalkus, because the neshama leaves the body. Here he was saying, istalik yikared the kutchebrichel b'cholam, Hashem is revealing, which is seemingly the opposite of istalik. So the Rebbe explains in the original, the Friedrich Rebbe explains in the original Basi Legani, what it means is, why is this revelation called leaving? Istalik means leaving. Because it's a revelation of godliness that normally is so infinite, it's removed from the world. And that's why it said, B'chulu Almin, it brings down a revelation of godliness that all the worlds are equal compared to it. And the Friedrich Rebbe, there's Maamar that there's higher and lower, then the Seviv, the infinite ray, highest and lowest are the same. So what happens when a Jew breaks evil and also transforms evil? They reveal, that's why it's called this stylic, because they reveal a level of godliness which is normally not in the world. And simply put, there's always godliness in the world. If you don't do Torah mitzvahs, Hashem is making the world exist. You want to bring down Kedusha. Kedusha means not normal level of godliness. Additional level of godliness, which means a level of God that normally is not by itself revealed in the world, i.e. the infinite revelation of Hashem. That's accomplished through Torah mitzvahs.
Before Tzimtzum, God.
Yeah, we get that level, God, the higher Tzimtzum.
Okay.
Wow, put it down.